Hello, how are you? My name is George Thornton, and I'm a BJCP national ranked judge, as well as an advanced Cicerone. I enjoy trying beers, learning about beers, and most of all, sobre todo, I really enjoy talking to people about them and hopefully passing on some knowledge about beer and style, flavor analysis, what to eat with beer, etc. So these videos are kind of a combo of beer reviews in general, but then also maybe a little bit of BJCP or Cicerone study if you're going down that path. Hopefully this can serve as a bit of a kind of casual yet hopefully somewhat in-depth review of these beers. And yeah, so today I'm going to be trying this this beer called Mañana from the brewery called Oso. Oso is from Madrid, and full disclosure, I actually work with Oso. I enjoy their beers, that's why I work with them. But I do some classes and some bartending gigs here and there. But you'll see probably a good amount of Oso beers on my channel because I get the beers as part of the gig, and I want to try them anyway. So I figure why not share it with you all. So this is an IPA, 6%. It's brewed with Citra and Equinot. Also has barley, wheat, oats, and they're using the Verdant yeast, which is a really nice hazy IPA yeast. So let's go into it. If I didn't say it already, 6% alcohol, right in my ideal range. I'm in my favorite would be a 3.5 to 4.5% range. 6 is where I start to go, okay, I have to think about how much alcohol I'm consuming kind of thing. But 6% IPA to me sounds fantastic. I can have a couple, maybe 3. If I mix it with something lower alcohol, I can kind of stretch the night on a little longer. I just enjoy drinking beer, so lower alcohol beer fits my profile. But all right, so I'm going to do more of like the kind of casual review on this one today with a touch of kind of BJCP analysis. But since this doesn't really fit into like a classic category or like a classic recommendation for within the category, I'll keep it kind of light. But on other videos where I'm digging into classic examples, then I'll try to get on those use those videos and those beers to be a bit more granular and a bit more sort of technical with how I describe the beer. So this will hopefully be a nice mix of casual and technical. Okay, so we're going to start with Aroma. I like to start with Aroma before I go into appearance, just because certain aromas can sort of volatilize or escape, especially sulfur type aromas. So right out the gate, it smells like I opened up a pack of fresh hops or like hop pellets, but like a fresh unopened bag, just cut it open. And this has this very like resinous green hoppy, kind of happy moment. It's like, for me, brewing a beer would be a happy moment. So this reminds me of that moment where you cut the bag open and you're about to add the hops. And to give more depth to that aroma, tropical pineapple, mango, not a lot of that like papaya guava territory, more in the passion fruit, even like dragon fruit, and then the citrus elements. It's almost like a fresh lemonade. It's like, it's not very pithy. It's more like bright, like squeezed lemon juice, and even a nice amount of like mandarin orange kind of like juice, but not pithy. And then for yeast, getting a little pear, a little bit of apricot, and for malt, it's this is really a beer that's all about the hops, and that's clear because the malt, if I'm like put my brain dinner roll or like just fresh cracked grain, I get a little bit of that, but it's definitely in the very low, whereas the hops are in the high territory. So it's definitely a hop aroma forward beer. So let's go into the flavor. Cool. So So I'm going to stay focused on flavor, and then I want to talk about the mouthfeel and body a little bit. Flavor is definitely mimicking that aroma of those tropical fruits that I mentioned, a little that citrus that I mentioned, getting a little bit more of like a pithy type bitterness. So a little bit of like hop-derived astringency, or also known as bitterness. And the other accompanying flavors with it, yeah, definitely more of like a grapefruit element coming in now, and that's lingering into the finish too. So as I'm kind of trying to describe it, I'm sort of noticing these other elements come up, especially that grapefruit sort of, especially grapefruit like rind is kind of coming up for me. In terms of balance, definitely hop forward. Bitterness is medium, maybe medium plus. And I think this perception is being increased by, we have a pretty dry beer here. And had this been maybe a little bit more, like a higher finishing gravity, we might have a little bit more of like a lower perception. That's a weird way to phrase that, but if this was less dry, we would have an increased perception of malt sweetness, obviously, and a decreased perception of hop bitterness. But the dryness is definitely kind of pushing that hop bitterness forward, which I think is quite nice, because I do enjoy, especially with hoppy beers, I do enjoy how hop bitterness can really cut through food, or like fatty foods and creamy textures on foods. So it makes it a nice tool to utilize that I think sometimes makes like other hazy IPAs that are really low on bitterness a challenge for me personally to enjoy with certain foods. But I can see how this bitterness could be an asset, could be a tool when pairing. But I'll talk about that in a few moments. Malt flavor is similar. I get a little touch of honey on there still, but it's still, overall malt flavor is very low. I've already kind of touched on the mouthfeel here. Dry, light body. I would maybe look for a little bit more creaminess, but this could either be achieved by something with the grist composition in terms of like the oats or wheat balance. It could be something to do with maybe finishing a little less dry, and or finding a way to kind of pull out some of this hop-derived astringency, whether it's through like bittering IBUs or whether it's through dry hopping quantities or something like that. Maybe even dropping or reducing that could be a role, but it's not my job to to go there. So, alrighty, for food, the amount of bitterness here makes me again think of like maybe some creamy cheeses. I think the creamy cheese would need something that's like accompanying it. So like whether it's like a chutney of some sort or some sort of like jam or jelly that would kind of help with it, or even just like brie with honey and then this. But then again, brie with honey with some jamon would be really cool. And then this, because the fat from the jamon and then the that little bit of creaminess texture, I think there's enough bitterness here to kind of deal with all that. And then that tropical fruit can have some nice complementing sort of fruitiness to find in that, like either the honey or the chutney or the jam or something like that. So I would definitely play around with different jams, like if I were going to use this in a beer tasting or in a cheese board that I'm making for a picnic or whatever. Yeah, so overall, I'd say, 6%, it's got a lot of flavor, a lot of character. I like the increased bitterness. That's a personal preference for me. In terms of color, you're not going to get the best feel of it. I think it's doing pretty well. It's translating fairly well, but a little bit more orange than this, and definitely really hazy. So overall for this beer, fantastic, easy drinking IPA that has a good amount of body to it. On its own, I think, one or two, you might start to feel that bitterness kind of attack you a little bit too much. You might need a little snack to help kind of balance that out. Otherwise, pairing this with, I think honestly, like a steak with like a blue cheese crumble would be excellent. And maybe with like a side of, broccoli or asparagus or carrots, or kind of a mix of those things with some sort of browned or glazed kind of action going on, I think would be pretty fun. I think this could work pretty well in that territory. Again, that bitterness being, I think, an asset or a tool that a lot of other hazy IPAs don't have. But that I think I'll just kind of end that here. This one nice and sweet. Again, if you would like to see certain beer style or specific beer or whatever, just leave a comment below and I will happily go pick up those beers and do my own review. And check out georgeyesgeorge.com to learn about any travel beercations. I'll be doing those in the spring and the fall, ideally of every year. So if you have questions about those, of course, reach out to me. And yes, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Enjoy beer. Bye.